We're moving on now to neck locks and neck cranks. This, if you like, is a sort of serious end of what we've been doing. Any attacks to the neck will control the body straight away, and there's always that element of danger to them. So if we go back to what we spoke about earlier on with the 3 S's, then this is the survival top of the bill, where we're going to put these holes on, but again there's a danger if the person struggles that the neck could be damaged. So when we practice them, if you're training with a partner, be careful when we put these on. We're going to have a look at some standing neck cranks and locks first of all. So the first one we're going to look at is called a figure 4 neck lock, and we'll have a look at how it's applied. From this position where the head is pulled down, then we're going to control the face. Now normally, if somebody's say coming in to tackle or dive for your body, and they pull your hips away and catch them in what's called a guillotine choke. This is a strangle, it's not a neck lock. But on occasions, the guy would drop his chin in to protect himself from this. So, I'm going to rotate his head to the side, put my hand on his shoulder, join up on my forearm, and lift his neck up towards the ceiling. Now the pressure on the neck vertebrae is this way, and this is the way that the neck doesn't want to bend. It will bend forward to a certain extent, but once it gets angled off to the side, then the pressure is on the cervical vertebrae, which is the first 7 vertebrae down the back of the neck from the top of the skull. So again, from here we pull the head down, I rotate the face to the side, put my hand on the shoulder to keep it down, and then lift. And you see the head is buried in against my abdomen, so it can't escape out the side. So there's nowhere for the head to go to. I want to hold the shoulder down because if I apply it this way, sometimes a man will think of rolling around and his head will come out. So by controlling the shoulder and pushing down, this locks his body in place and makes it difficult for him to make the escape. So the opportunity for this arises when the head is forward. And there could be a couple of scenarios or ways we can look at that. One, if the man is trying to tackle your body, pull the hips away, step in, and immediately join it up. Another opportunity might be if I set this up and bring the man down. So from here as a preemptive technique, I might be stood in front of an aggressive person, and then I'm going to hit them and bring them around and lock them up. So in that case, I've brought their head down towards me. So the first one again, as Tony moves in, I'm going to pull my hips away, snatch the head down, and immediately come in and lift on the neck. The second option is that I take the initiative. I'm just going to drop out the eye line and strike into the groin and immediately lock him up from this position and take control. So that's your figure 4 neck lock. This next technique is similar. This is a frontal face lift, which puts pressure again on the vertebrae of the neck. And the head can be twisted or it can be directly in front of you when you apply it. But once more, the head is down here. It's in my lower abdomen. My arm is going to come round the front. Anywhere on the facial area will do, but if we're above the nose, just between the eye line, then this technique will be even more painful. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift Tony by pushing my abdomen forward and driving him back this way. Okay? Now, not only is it putting pressure on his neck, you're putting crushing pressure on his nose as well. So it immediately stops the person in their tracks. If they're thinking about trying to take your legs, bring it to the floor, this instant pressure, lifting up, brings them under control. So remember, if you control the head, you'll control the body. Simple as that. As soon as people feel pressure on the neck, it frightens them. So it takes the fight straight out of them. Now I'm doing this technique reasonably slowly. Obviously it's got to be done quick to stop yourself from being taken down. So it's not a technique where you can apply it in a slow, controlled manner. This technique is where you're really going to have to up the level that you're going to apply the force. So once more, if Tony's running in to grab me up, hit away, and I lift him really quickly from this position and finish from there. So remember, I may have to take this to its conclusion, or I can set up for strikes to finish if I don't want to do this. Bring him to finish him from that position. Okay? So, down, trap the head in the lower abdomen. Bring the bone edge of your forearm across, lock it in, and lift, and lever him backwards. So all the time he's going backwards, he can't keep it going forward. If I ask Tony to try and grab my legs, he's going back, and this makes it difficult for him to do this. Okay? So that's your front face lift. This next technique is a front face lock. Now this is slightly different to the two that we've done so far. Again, it's going to apply pressure to the cervical vertebrae, the neck, but we're going to crush his face forward. So the opportunity for this comes, if I pull his head down, I want to bring his face up. So it's no longer buried down, as for the last two. So his head is going to be here, but you can see there's a slight angle on the body. So I'm not going to step into him, but I'm going to make a slight angle. The bone edge of my forearm goes in to the base of his skull. And from this position, I'm walking this way. Okay? Now he's got to put his hands on the floor to stop himself from falling face down. But the problem is, because I've got his neck locked, it's going to put the pressure on the neck and rupture those vertebrae. So it's pushing in, front face lock from here. Now you can imagine if that's done at speed, the guy can't get to the floor. It's going to damage the neck. So I'm going to have to pull up on this a little bit. I'm going to apply it full blast. But if Tony rushes in, I drop it. And he's down, and the neck is already locked up. If I want to finish, I can step back and always stop these finishes here if I want to finish from this position. Okay? Just slow it down a second. So the idea is to create an angle, pull your hips away, and form this sloping position. It crushes the face and puts pressure. Again, if Tony tries to grab my legs, the pressure on the face is going to stop him from doing so. And then if you want to step back from that to finish with your strikes, you can do that as well. Okay. Right, that's your front face lift. This technique is a head and chin twist. It's a fast technique which will control somebody and bring them to the floor very quickly. So, different from the last ones where we were going to lock him up, this one we're going to manoeuvre the head and crank it round so we get the guy to the floor. So first of all I'm going to show you it, and then we'll look at it in an application afterwards. So this time the back of my hand cups the base of his skull here. My hand will come up across his chin, and I'm going to rotate his head around on the axis and take him to the floor. Now remember what I've said already, the body will follow where the head goes. So as soon as you start rotating the head, the body tends to follow. Now if I want to take this man to the floor, I need to drop my centre of gravity. So my weight comes down with him. Otherwise his body will fall very, very quickly to the floor and you'll lose him. So if you want to use it to control a man, you need to come down with him. So as soon as his falling body weight goes down, I'm going to bend my knees and come down with it under control to this position. I'm just going to look at an application of this technique. I'm just going to move around this. And this can be done from a preemptive situation again against somebody who's aggressive. What? I've got no problem with it. Hey, don't understand. Just slow that down a moment and we'll have a look at that. Okay, when I decide to move, my hands are already up defensively. So they're closer to Tony's head. That's where I want to attack. I'm going to start off with a series of these ballistic strikes that we spoke about earlier on, where I'm going to hit 2 or 3 points together. So from here, I drove the cup hands over Tony's ears. I'm walking straight in for a headbutt and knee to the groin, which brings him forward, allowing me now to crank and rotate the chin around, taking him down to the floor. And from that position, we can control it. If you want to put the heel of your hand onto the jaw and push down, that will just control somebody in place. Or if we need to finish it, I can smash the head down to the floor and step away. So it depends on the severity of the situation and what we're going to do. So again, let's just look at that. From here, my hands will clap onto the ears. My head will drive in to the nose, and the knee catches the groin. This brings his face down onto my shoulder. Now again, as I pull him down, my shoulder is smashing into his nose, and then I'm twisting the head round and taking him to the floor to control at this point. Now, just a little word here about the use of the head and head butting. If you're going to strike somebody with your head, then you're going to use this top dome part of the skull. Never hit anybody with the frontal lobe of the skull. It's going to shake your brain. Now the rule really is that everything above my eye line is going to hit below Tony's eye line. What we don't want to do in this situation is both to go boom and both will end up with big lumps on your head and sort of staggering all over the place. So when I drop this in, I shadow my head down so it drives through. My full body weight is behind this. So rather than pulling the head back, which is to telegraph, you want your full body weight behind this shot as it comes in. Your knee follows and the shoulder strike follows from here. And then you can carry on and take it to the floor. Now, one final word on this. At the moment, I've used this purely as a controlled technique. If we brought this up another stage, then this technique literally becomes a net break. And in this case, you know, we're talking about maybe having to deal against weapons, etc. So let's just grab a knife. So this time we're going to look against Tony. He's going to come in, he's going to try and slash to the side of my neck. I'm going to stop that and I'm going to take the head straight away. Let's just slow that down. There's coming through, I'm going to block this arm as hard as I can, looking to hit the nerve on the arm. At the same time, the web of my hand will come up and caught the throat, and it's going to rotate and spin the head for the finish from there. So again, this is a technique that's reserved for life-threatening. If you're going to get stabbed, you're going to end up on a life support machine, or your life's going to be taken, then you're going to go in and take this technique to its conclusion. So once again, slowly turning, as I strike, my hand's going to strike and turn the head and take him to the floor for the finish. So again, working the principle that we've been talking about all the time on this DVD is where you need to take this to. What the situation is that you're facing, can you sum it up and make that choice? Sometimes there's situations that you won't have time to sum up. If you're suddenly attacked from out of nowhere, then you've got to do what you feel is justified at that moment in time. But for those of you that may be, involved in jobs that require you to control, restrain people, then you need to look at the level of violence that you're facing and then make that opinion and judgment on as you see it happening. So if you've got time, then you should be able to do this and take it to whatever conclusion it needs to be done. This next technique follows on from where we finished last. This is a neck snap technique. It's going to spin the head and chin once more, but in a different manner. So again, when we're facing this lethal threat, then we're going to take it to its conclusion. And first we'll look at it full speed, and then we'll look at it again slowly. Okay, just slow this down a little bit. As Tony makes the thrust, I'm moving my body out of the way. I think his arms come through the gap here. Now, not only am I tapping the neck, I've also got the elbow as well. This pressure here will take the knife away. At the same time, my hand will grab his chin, and I step away this way, and it rotates and cranks the head round. So depending on the level of force you use, it can become a very violent takedown, and the neck is wrenched, or we can bring it up so where you're really going to damage the vertebrae. So again, if you're coming slowly, Tony, as I move and catch it, I'm going to do the two things together. I'm going to expand my rib cage out so that I hit the elbow, and at the same time I'm going to open the neck away this way, and this takes him down. Now I can hold him in this position if he doesn't go to the floor, and down on the back of the knee, which will take the knee joint out as well. Okay, so we've got 3 of the joints in one there. Let go again and speed there, Tony. This next technique is a reverse neck wrap. Again, we're going to tap the neck, but in a different manner. We're going to put pressure on the back of the vertebrae again by wrapping the head up. We're going to look at it from a knife attack and gain that thrust to the stomach. Let's look at this again slowly. There's a couple of ways of finishing this, so I'm going to just talk you through the variations. As Tony thrusts in once more, I'm going to move my body to the side. So first of all, if we just check this out, I've come through, I've trapped his wrist. So I'm looking to apply that pressure with my rib cage against the straightened arm. Slowly. As this happens, I'm going to drive my elbow into his face, cutting this side of the body away. Now I come over, wrap my arm round and bring it round the back of his neck, so I hold it in place. If the knife is still here, we're looking at another elbow break by bringing my knee up and dislocating the elbow, taking the blade away. Now if I continue pressure here, we're going to get a really nasty neck crank. Or if I want to bring him to the floor, I drop that elbow down onto his sternum and take him down. Let's go again slowly. Come through. Wrap. Take him round. We're going to bring the knee up to break. And then crank the neck. And where the body's extended, the sternum, the breastbone is really extended and stretched. So the elbow dropping down on there will just take the fight completely out of it. Getting the speed to This technique is called a head chantry. Now, again, the word chantry goes back to old style wrestling, and it's just another word for a neck lock or a mobilization. And they used it quite a lot, and some variations of it was used in the professional wrestling ring. This particular variation here puts extreme pressure on the neck vertebrae. So rather than it just being a headlock that you can throw somebody over with, this one again will finish it from a standing position if you need to do it. Now, first of all, we'll look at the technique, how I'm going to apply it live, and then I'll break it down and show you the chantry movement itself. So we're going to do this again against the knife slash the face. Okay, this time I'm going to carry it and block that knife. Going to come underneath, break the joint at this point, getting rid of the knife totally. I'll just move you over a little bit, son. As I split my elbow strikes and brings his head forward, allowing me to catch it in the crook of my arm. And from here, this forearm goes across the temple, just above the ear, and I join my hands together. Now I rotate and stretch my arms, which puts severe pressure on the neck. And again, from this position, you've got complete control. If you want to bring up strike from here, you're in position to do that and finish. Okay, so slowly. Come and we stop, and I come under and hook and make a break. I pivot and drive my elbow into the midsection. And just turn you slightly against me. If the man's still upright, we're going to bring the back of the hand down and hit the groin. Come over and catch the head. And rotate and twist this way for your finish. And from here, we can follow in if you need to. Now I mentioned a moment ago that the head chantry was used in old style wrestling. It was used to throw people over with as well. So in this case, rather than putting a lot of pressure on the vertebrae of the neck, we use it as a headlock and then we'll throw the guy over. So I'm just going to show you an example of this just so you get an idea of where it comes from and how you can link it up to the chantry position. So from this position where we got to last time, before I was cranking the head in this fashion. What I'm going to do now is hook the back of the head and step my leg to the side. So I come to this position here and then take the man over the top. And from here, I'm going to push my abdomen into the back of his head and crush his chin down into his chest. This becomes a head crush technique. Where he sat low and his shoulders are not coming up the floor, my abdomen will push forward and put a lot of crushing pressure on the back of the neck. Obviously from here he's vulnerable to finishing shots from this position. So, let's just have a look at it again slowly. We've taken this position, but now I step through and pull it over the top. Round, push the head in, and finish. Catch, step to the top, keep him low and squeeze, pushing my abdomen forward, putting pressure on the vertebrae. As his chin is pushing down into his chest, there's nowhere for him to go. The only option that he might try kicking and bringing his foot upwards in, if I catch that now, I just crank him up on his spine. I'll just move him around the side a little bit. This locked up his spine, so now he's immobilised. Although it looks comical, I can knock him out with his own knee there, yes, because he can't do nothing about it, yes, so you can use his own leg to finish him, okay? This is another neck stretch where we're going to stretch the vertebrae of the neck and lock it up. So let's just look at what we're going to do first of all. From this position here, my arm will come across the throat and I'm going to join my hands up. But at the same time, I'm going to stick my hips through so that I stretch his neck over my back. Now this makes it very difficult for Tony to move. His posture now is broken and the pressure is stretching the neck and the windpipe at the same time. Okay. Now, there's a few applications of this technique. First of all, it can be used as a technique to remove somebody or drag them off somebody else. So, in the security world, it's used a lot if you need to break up fights and get rid of somebody. So from here, if Tony was engaged and with a fight this side, or he's verbalised, he's ready to cause trouble, then I'm going to whip up from behind here and take him and then I'll walk him, okay? At the same time talking to him, making sure I'm going to calm him down and then move him away or exit that building. And sometimes I'm asked the question, well, what if this guy is, tall? How are you going to come up and do this? We've got to look at is how we break the body down. So sometimes I refer to the body as a building. And how you're going to take a building down is hit the foundations first. And in this case, the foundations are the legs. If I do this type of thing to the back of the opposite knee, it already folds the man down. If I bring my knee up and hit the base of the spine here, this is the coccyx, the tailbone of your spine, right between the buttocks, it arches and bends the back. So this short strike will open him up. Short strike on the back of the leg will bring him down even further, which allows you then to take the neck. And then you can walk him away. Also, again, if the person has got enough hair to grab, then use that initially and pull it back. When you grab somebody's hair, it's got a painful effect straight away and controls the hair. And this allows you then to step in and set this technique. Alternatively, once more, striking to the kidneys will arch the back. Just the same if you strike somebody in the abdomen, they'll tend to bend forward. When you strike somebody in the kidneys, the sharp pain makes them arch their back. Now the kidneys just sit above the belt level, near enough. When you throw the punch to hit this is a slight sort of uppercut blow, which comes from the body. So from here, you would drive it upwards on a slight 45-degree angle, which arches the back, giving you time then to set up the neck wrap and stretch. So let's just go through those techniques again from the back. This is a common situation that people in security work may find themselves, and sometimes it's difficult to know the right way to approach it. If you've got somebody aggressive here, as soon as you lay a hand on them, they will spin round and suddenly you're the object then of their aggression. So if I can't reason with this guy, and maybe he's ready to put a glass into somebody's face, I know that talking to him is no longer an option. But if I can come up behind and strike it down and come in, now I can talk to him. Drop it, put it on the floor. So if you've got a weapon, you're going to drop it. Now remember, earlier on we spoke about the punishment reward. Then if he doesn't drop it, I tighten this up a little bit. Yeah? Now put it on the floor, drop it. Then you start stretching him. Okay, we're going to walk you out, and you take him away. Okay? So the back of the knee joint, good target to use. The next one, remember, is the tailbone, the coccyx. So from here, when you throw the strike, it must be right up underneath it. It's a really close strike. So it's not pushing your knee forward, because that just hits the base of the spine or the buttocks themselves, and you're going to get no feeling from that particular strike. What we need to do is to come sharply underneath, and this joints the man. And the pressure goes right away up the spine, hits the back of the head, boom, arches the back, and then we're in, and we come back to the same controlled position. Grabbing the hair, grab it from the front line of the hair. This locks the neck up. You grab it from the back, he shakes his head around, and that will pull free, and then we're into this fight situation. So I want to take it from the front of the back. Now if I ask Tony to put his head back up, it's not going to go anywhere. I want to control it from here. Okay? Then you're in position to come back for it. The final one was the shot to the kidneys. If we're going to hit it, obviously if you're left or right hand, I'm predominantly left-handed, so I'm showing it from this side. But you come up the line, driving on a slight 45-degree angle, so you hit the kidney upwards. So from here, drive it up and through, and then we walk the guy away. Now, sometimes you may need to walk the man away, and then help may come and you just get rid of him. If you need to finish it, either you take it to the conclusion of squeezing on the neck here, and this man may well go to sleep. It's like a sleeper hold. But the problem is then you've got somebody who's lying in your arms, it might be asleep. So you can't let them go, otherwise you're just going to smash down on the floor and probably smash their head. So, in that case, if I feel this body go limp, then I'm going to set him down. Right. Yeah. And then you need help. Yeah, you don't sort of leave them there. If we're going to disengage it, maybe somebody else is coming in, and when I take this, I get to this point, and then I'm going to let him go. So he's still in the fight, but I'm going to just rake the face and let him go, take him down, and then I may have to deal with whoever else is coming in. Also, I can use him as a shield. So if I've got somebody else approaching me here and they want to use a weapon, I'll move him around, back off, stay where you are, alright? So you're going to use this guy to negotiate with somebody else. Now sometimes you may need to say things that you may not necessarily mean, but I want to frighten this guy here so he believes I'm going to do it. So from here you might say, back off, I'll break his fucking neck, you stay there! And I want him to believe it. So I want to give him a shot of adrenaline so he thinks, shit, I'm not going to go near it. Particularly if this guy's screaming and thrashing around. Okay, so you can use him as a shield to get yourself out of maybe a doorway if you're outnumbered. Okay, so think about using this person. That principle is very much like a hostage situation, where somebody will take a hostage, they're going to negotiate with them. So as long as they've got that hostage alive and well, they can do something with them. This is the same principle. If I wanted to get myself out of a sticky situation and I've got control of one of these guys' friends, then hopefully, as long as he's alive and well and kicking, they're going to negotiate with me. But it's no good having choked this guy unconscious and he's asleep going, fucking stay there, I'll break his neck, and he's already gone asleep because these guys are going to walk straight through you. So you've got to control, this is where the control comes in, where I know he's still there, where I can feel it. I don't want to pull him too far that he drops unconscious. Okay, so if you're going to use him as a bargaining tool, make sure you still got him. Otherwise, if he drops to the floor and is slumped, then you're going to have 6 guys fighting you rather than one, okay? So that's one way of using it. This can also be used in a self-defense scenario when the man's got his back turned. And there's a couple of ways we can look at this. So, sorry, if I turn you back. So the first one we're going to do is against, say, like a standard front kick. So we're going to try and kick you in the groin or the midsection. On this side. Yeah. So as he kicks me, I'm going to parry him, I'm going to drag him down. See how that sets him down on the floor? You can fire a kick from the back there and he won't even see it. Yeah, it's a heel hook kick that hits the groin. So what I want to do is to break his balance down. If I drop him here, he might be flexible enough to spin around and hit me with something. When I drag him down, it drops his weight, and momentarily his weight is totally gone. So this allows me the chance now to come up for the technique that we've been practicing. Now if his head's gone too far forward, then obviously that's not an option. But as I showed you there, there's a nice little kick there which comes up and hits the groin and hits the back of the leg and knock him down to the floor from there. Okay? So let's go on that side again. Slowly. By stepping across, I protect my groin. So even if he kicks me, he's going to kick my thigh. He's not going to hit me in the groin. So I step up across and drag the foot down, which allows me the entry that I'm looking for to put on this reverse neck crank. Another application of this is against somebody that's sticking a hand on your chest, holding you in place, and again preventing you from going where you want to go. I'm just going to take this side so we can see it. I'm going to walk into this position. Now I feel his energy coming through my chest here. What I'm going to perform is an arm drag technique. The arm drag turns this man off his centre line. So I make one hook with my hand here, and one hook with my opposite hand. And I move my chest away and pull him off centre. It just brings him round the corner and breaks his balance. Just slow that movement down a moment. We're here. Catch. Let your chest move away and pull the man round the corner. And this off balances centre line. So at speed here, I'm walking in, and this guy's hang on a minute, I'm going to arm drag him pretty quickly. Okay? Now, if I want to go into that same technique, then I need to make sure he's at a height that I can do this. So we do it again. Here, drag him round and catch him and step back into that technique. Sometimes he may go forward, which in that case you need to change the technique that you're going to do. And we'll look at that next. Alright, let's look at this variation I was talking about in the last technique. From the arm drag, if I pull this man too hard, he's likely to bend forward, which stops me from taking his neck. So if he's bent in this position, it's very difficult to pull him back up, and you're going against his energy. His energy wants to go this way, so to pull somebody back up is working hard. Okay. So as I off-centre him to this point, his knee comes up and catches his ribs at this point, which takes the air out of him. Then I'm going to come across his face and crank his neck this way. Okay. Now this twists his head around, and it's called a face bar. It locks the head in place, and I can crank him from there. Now if I want to take this up a level, I just spin him around that way, and it takes the head with it. So let's just look at that again slowly. As I arm drag him away, as his balance is broken, his knee already comes up and hits his midsection, which takes the air out of him, and this foot will come down. Now he wants to fall forward, but I'm going to stop him with this face bar, which cranks the neck around. Now from here I can hold him in place, or if I step my foot away, I just unwind his body away from me and let it go. Now obviously I'm letting that go. I'm allowing Tony's body to free fall to the floor. If we kept this tight and turned the circle a little bit more, then we're going to get damage to that neck vertebrae. So we'll do that one more time, please. There, son. Hang on a minute, mate. What's this all about? This technique is called a crucifix or a stocks hold, and it's just simply the position that the man ends up in. So you're going to control the neck, but at the same time the shoulders are immobilised. Now this is one of the really highly dangerous techniques when it comes to the neck. It's very difficult to take people to the floor unless you really lighten up on it. Now in different situations it can be applied from the floor, which we're going to look at in a while. We're going to look at this from a top position. I'll show you against a technique, a scenario, and then we'll break it down and have a look at it. So earlier on we had the scenario of somebody rushing in towards you and caught the face as we've done before. Now instead of going for the neck lock, this arm is going to come over the top and this arm is going to come underneath. Now from here I'm going to spiral Tony's body around and sit him down all the way through into this stocks hold. Now my upper back is putting pressure on Tony's neck vertebrae, which pushes his chin down into his chest, and this locks the neck up. Now I'm taking him down under control. You bring the man down fast, there's nowhere for his neck to go, and you're just going to damage that vertebrae in the neck itself. So as he comes in, I pull my hips back. I want to stop myself from being taken down, and I catch the arm. I'm going to turn him around in a small circle and bring him down. Now the further I can sit him down to the floor, the better it is for me. I want to get his shoulders as low to the floor as possible and his lower back firmly on the deck. Then I'm going to lean back into his neck and apply this crucifix or stocks hold. Okay. Now let's change around this way. Okay. I'm going to look at the position from on the floor. My arm comes around the back of his neck and sinks underneath his bicep, so that my fingers are showing through. This tells me that my arm is set in the correct position. And depending on this guy's flexibility here, I want to sit my way out so I've got complete control. And now I lean my body weight back against his neck. As I said, it's really difficult to do this under control. But the situation for this will always occur when the man's head is down, so that you can hook the arms. Well, look at this back view here. This arm goes over the top and this one goes underneath his armpit. So it's putting pressure on the neck already. Then I'm going to take my leg away and spiral him down to the floor. And sit forward, sliding down. put the cradle on. Now that's a really good practical application of this technique. What I'm going to do is show you a jiu-jitsu application of this technique, just to show you where it comes from. The origins of a lot of these techniques are really interesting and quite dynamic, the techniques when you do them. So although it might not be the practical thing to do on the pavement, we'll have a look at how this technique comes in, okay, as an actual throw. If you have throw in the right spell. Alright. So from here I set this up. Here, pull him over and take the vertebrae of his neck, okay? Alright. Again, I'll put him down, grab him, and I'm going to sit through. Vertebrae over my head, sit all the way through, and take the back of the neck. And that's where these techniques originated from. You can see why they're so dynamic and practical. Once the guy's over, the neck's already going before you get up again. This next section of neck locks we're looking at from the floor. There's many different positions you may end up in on a fight on the floor. There's different ways that we can control the neck, and we're just going to look at a variety of these as we go. So the first one I'm going to show you is from this top mounted position. If I get to this position on top of somebody, again, if I want knowledge of how to crank or lock the neck, then this technique, sometimes referred to as a can opener, it's just like you're taking the top off a can of beans. So it puts pressure on the vertebrae of the neck. The way I'm going to do this is to come down. I'm going to cut the back of his head with both of my hands. And my elbows will rest on his chest. I'm just going to slide down the body slider and pull his head up towards me. Again, this stretches the vertebrae in the neck and pushes the chin down onto the chest. Again, from here, I cut the back of the head to both sides and bring my elbows in together as tight as they will go. And then from here, stretch up on the neck to get this instant crank. And when you cut the head, you want to try and move the elbow in as close to the chest as possible, rather than them being on the outside where the shoulders are. So if we bring them in tight and join them together, settle your weight down and crank up, this gives you a nice finish. So at the moment we're using that technique to subdue somebody. Now even if I'm not on the chest, but this guy has sort of caught me between his legs and prevented me from moving over, again if I lean in and cut, it will give me this can opener position. So from here we can use it as a basic subdual technique, take the man under control. Or if we bring it sharply up, it takes the neck. So it depends on the situation that we're dealing with. Again, from this top position and we're fighting and struggling, and maybe we've already struck and hit a few shots in, and I catch the head, sharply cranking up on the neck, maybe enough to finish the job, and then come in, bang, and finish it from there. Okay? Or otherwise, you can use it purely to crank up and control somebody from this position. And that's your can opener on the neck. This next technique is called a neck cradle. And once more, we're going to stretch the vertebrae of the neck. It can be applied in many situations, but this is the most common situation we're going to get. If I see this top position here, and again we're working around, the guy may be fighting with me and wrestling with me. So first of all, to set this up, I need to make sure I get some strikes in to soften him up. I can't immediately put this cradle on, particularly if the guy's holding on to me here and he's holding my body tight. If the guy's holding me tight, I need to break these arms away. Like pushing and struggling, too much strength involved. What I'm going to do is take my elbow over, the point of my elbow, and I'm going to grind it into his eye socket or his cheekbone, and this will open his arms up. Hit him with my elbow in the ribs or in the body, and begin to open him up. From here, I'm going to slap this arm up, take his neck up into this cradle position. And from this position, my knee comes on, and I keep cranking the neck up and applying pressure to the back of the head. Now again, he's vulnerable for finishes from this position, and he does whatever I want to do from here. Okay? Just look at that again. We're down. Once again, I need to break him open. Now, if initially, if I'm really tight, I've got a job to get his arm out of here. I'm going to smash my head right in. And again, earlier on, we were talking about this, the extreme cases. There, set him up and lift him into this cradle position. From here, your elbows can take those floating ribs, or you're into striking, in the groin, stepping up, and setting him up for a big finish from here. This pressure comes on really, really hard on the back of the neck. Now sometimes from here, we can reinforce this cradle by sitting up and putting your leg behind. So now I can turn the pressure from here, or take my hands away, keep the pressure with the leg, and then we're going to back down and finish from here, and there's not much you can do from that situation. When I set the cradle up, I'm going to knock his arm away. I'm going to use the heel of my hand and knock it up. The further this arm goes up the body, the better. And then my hand comes over. Now, depending again where we are, if my fingers come around here, there's a set of nerve just on the inside of the chest ball in the armpit, and that makes it even worse when I set it up. Bang, you can finish from here, strike, or set them right up for the neck. Great from this position. A really versatile technique, and comes on really sharp from this cross-body position. Okay, and that's a neck cradle. This next set of techniques comes from the person in his prone position on their stomach. Again, I'm going to start off across his back. Now, this is the worst possible position in a fight for somebody to end up face down. Because now he can no longer see what's going on, and that's a bad thing to start off with. But he's exposing the neck and head from here. Now, when we look at these finishes, what we're talking about is what I refer to as street grappling, combat grappling. It's not sport. You're not looking for a tap out here. So everything goes. There's no rules. If you need to strike, you need to butt, you need to bite, you need to push into pressure points, then that's what you do. Remember, if this guy is bigger, stronger, or more dangerous to you on the floor, you're not looking to try and tap him out. Like I said earlier on, there's no tap out on the street. What we've got to do is to make sure that we create enough pain to control and subdue this man so that we can get up. So from here, first thing we're going to use is a face bar. Now we've looked at an application of this before. Let's have a look at it from underneath. If his head is flat on the floor, I'm going to use the bone edge of my arm and drive it across. So I turn his neck to the side. Now the bone of my forearm, the inside, will go into the eye socket, into the nose, into the cheekbone and the chin, and I rotate it this way round, which stretches in and applies a lot of pressure to the face. So not only are we locking the neck, we're applying this crushing pressure to the face, and this is what makes it even more painful. So, from this position, if he keeps his head low, we're going to come across and swipe the head across using the bone edge of my arm. So it would dig into the face of the eye socket, join up and twisting from this position. And this gives you a good application of the face bar. Now, earlier on we looked at the position here where I took and toned him down and we had him in this position on the floor. We've taken the arm out of play and his head this way. Okay, same face bar, different position. So it puts pressure on his shoulder and it also twists the spine. So I push him this way round. Okay. If you're lying across the person but not directly across their back, then here, and again you can stretch his face this way. In this case, my body is lying on this side of his back. So when I rotate the head, it's twisting the spine. And from here, sweep underneath and crank him this way round. When we go back to this position, the face bar can be applied to any of these areas. If the head comes up, if I take that bone edge directly underneath his nose to his upper lip and push it back through, this crushes his gums. The teeth are being compressed and pressure against his upper jawline. Really, really painful technique from there. By turning the bone up, I can lift up on the nose and this crushes the philtrum. This is the nose and it opens up the throat if I was going to attack it, but in this case we're concentrating on that face bar position. Okay? So anywhere on the face, you can apply one of these. And just sit up a minute. Sit back with your feet out. Let's just give you a little bit of a better view of what we're doing here. The face bar comes across. I'm going to join my hands in a palm-to-palm grip here and rotate the face across the body and apply pressure. In this case, it's into the cheekbone. But direct pressure this way crushes the face, particularly the teeth and the upper gums. Or here, we'll tilt the head back if you need to get in to the throat. So that's the front application of the face bar. Okay, moving on again. This time we're looking at what's called the reverse face bar. This time the arm starts on this side of the face. So initially we may have softened this man up by striking with the elbow, and this arm comes across and grabs this side of his tricep. Now I lean back and stretch his neck upwards. This is a much more powerful and dangerous application of the face bar. It's stretching the vertebrae of his neck now. On the other side, I strike to open him up and I sweep my arm across. My hand will come and join on to the tricep on the back of his arm. And then I lever up this way, stretching the head and neck in an upwards fashion. This is a more little known version of the face bar, but much more powerful. We come across again, stretch, and lift him up to this position here. Still sticking with this position, this technique is a frontal chin lift. And from here, I'm going to drop my knee to the base of the spine, which initially lifts the head slightly anyway for pain. My hands will cup around his chin, stretching this way with straight arms. Now again, this technique can go from being a controlling movement to something quite violent where you jolt the vertebrae. Now the key to this technique is keeping straight arms. You cup underneath the chin. Remember, don't put anything near his face, otherwise you'll bite your hands. Cup underneath the chin, straight arms, straight back, and lift upwards. It's not lifting with your arms. It's a common mistake in this technique. It's got to be your full body weight cranking up from here. And this is what puts severe pressure on the neck. Again, this is a dangerous technique. I'm going to show you an application of how to get into this next. This is one application of getting into that neck lift that we just looked at. Get that again slowly. Okay, same deflection as we've done earlier on. Stepping him down. This time I'm coming underneath and grabbing hold of his groin. I'm going to tilt him forward. Grabbing the groin. From here, I just drop my heel down, control him, drop the knee in, and then stretch the head to the finish. Again, it's a powerful technique. If we're up in the scale, remember we've been talking about this all day, where we need to go with these techniques depending on the severity of the situation, then once more at the top end of the scale. Okay, we're going to look at this again in real time. Right, back to the floor again, this time I'm on my back. A situation where we've ended up, this man is trying to get past my legs. So, again I'm going to come into a neck wrap from here and then stretch the neck. And first of all I need to get into here. If the man exposes his head for me, then I'm going to come up and around and shoot my hand underneath. Okay? Now when my hand comes around the neck, it's going to creep up my shirt front. So the gap between my arm and Tony's head becomes less and less and less as my arm creeps up the shirt front. I'm going to join my hands here, and this begins to put the hold on. And then we're going to use the body to stretch the vertebra in the neck. So sometimes this is called a cervical separation. It's going to separate the vertebra in the neck. So although there's a partial choke on there, the pressure is on the back of the head. So again, I've sat up and I've grabbed the head and brought it down. And from here I'm going to cross my legs. Now what I need to do is to pull Tony in first, and then I'm going to explode and stretch him outwards, and this is what stretches his neck. Now, sometimes a common mistake when people apply this is to arch their backs and try and squeeze the windpipe. And because you're lying flat on the floor, you haven't got the leverage to do this. But by pulling him in and then extending your legs, you stretch the neck, and this makes this technique much more effective. I'm just going to show this in the side position. As I've wrapped the head up and come down, I've crossed my legs. Now, note how I'm going to pull Tony in first. Pull him in. So my legs are completely brought back and my hip is cocked, ready to come back out again. And this stretches the neck and makes the technique apply. Okay? So let's look at a way of getting into this. If you're, say, taking off your feet on the floor, we'll do like a double leg challenge on this one. Wrap him up. Send him out from this position here for the front. So far what we've done is try to break down the different joints and show different ways of attacking them. So we've worked from the fingers, the wrist, elbow, shoulder, into the leg locks, into the neck and spinal locks. What we want to do now is begin to put these together. So these are miscellaneous techniques. They're not attacking one joint specifically. They may be attacking two or three at different times. So the first ones we're going to look at are on the floor. So Cora's going to demonstrate this first one to us. She's lying on the floor, head facing me. And Tony's across in this mounted position. So, legs across in the mount. Now, Cora will do the technique first of all. She'll do it at full speed, then I'll break it down and talk about it afterwards. Back in again. Same speed again. Okay, let's break this down. Let's look at it. The attack is in the top position. Grab hold of the throat, beginning to apply pressure. Now for Cora, under this position here, there's no way that this grip is going to be broken on the throat, so she doesn't waste time trying to break that grip. There's valuable seconds that air is being used up. So she comes up to the top and slaps the ears with the concussive strike we looked at earlier on, and then her thumb drives to the eyes. From here now she's going to rotate Tony's neck using the chin and hair grab and buck her hips up and take him away. As soon as she gets to a position of freedom, she's going to strike the elbow to the sternum, drive the fist to the groin and work her way out backwards so she gets back to her feet as quickly as she can. Let's do that again. So it's important that we don't waste time with this grip here. You're never going to break it, no matter who it is underneath there. So you go to the vital points, strike the ears, thumb the eyes. Grab the hair and chin, bridge the hips up and come out. Elbow to the breastbone, strike to the groin, and you get yourself out. We're going to look at an elbow lock again now. This is from self-defense scenario on the floor. So this time Corin's on her back. Tony's knelt beside and he's brandishing a knife to the neck. So from here, Corin's going to show how to get into that arm bar. And I should do it a couple of times at full speed. Again, guys. Okay, let's break this down, have a look at it. In this scenario, the knife's to the side of the neck. So in this case, Corin needs to react quickly before Tony gets to a better position where he'll pin her down with his weight. So the first thing she's going to do is to clamp down on the wrist, taking the knife away from the neck, so that when she makes her move, she's not going to get cut. Now she turns on her hips and brings her inside knee and shin across Tony's midsection, and will push away strongly with that leg to create space. Now her far side leg comes over the face and brings him down to the flat of his back. From here now, he's in this sort of classic armbar position. Tony's elbow is facing down. His thumb side of his hand is facing up. So now she squeezes her knees together, lifts her pelvis and pulls down sharply on the arm to break the joint if need be and disarm the weapon. Now she needs to get up from here safely, so on the way out she drives the heel of her foot down into his face and gets herself to her feet as quickly as she can before anything else happens. Okay, let's do that again. So from here she makes the clamp down. She creates space, sticks her knee in and pushes him away. And then she brings her opposite leg over the face and takes him down to his back. From here now she levers down on the elbow to make the break and to get out of there. This technique goes back to attacking the fingers as we've looked at earlier on. But now this is an application against a stranglehold, which is a more serious attack. So with the last technique, we needed to address getting out of the strangle first, the same with this one. So Corin's going to show it real time a few times and then we'll break it down. Okay, let's slow this down and have a look at it. As the hands come onto her neck, the first thing she needs to do is to address this problem. Now again, she's not going to break that grip. So she's going to hook with one hand and drive her fingertips down into the jugular notch, which is the indentation at the base of the windpipe here. This sends a gagging effect towards this man's throat and begins to break the grip. Now she's going to come across with the same hand, peel the two small fingers away and crank them back down towards him, taking him to his knees. From here he's in prime position for a knee in the face to finish the technique. Do that again. So let's look again. She steps back and drives those fingertips down into the jugular notch, breaking the grip. She comes across, takes the fingers and cranks them downwards, and then sets up the knee strike to the face. Right, back to the floor. This is a combination lock where we're going to attack the elbow and the neck at the same time. First of all, let's look at this position. I'm going to sit through onto the side of Tony here. I'm going to collect his head in his arm and pin it. This position is sometimes referred to in judo as a scarf hold or a head and arm position. But it's a basic pin from the side here. Now, what we're going to do, look at attacking the neck and the arm together. Now in this position, depending on what the man's going to do here, obviously this arm's not going to stay here forever. He's going to think about bringing it round and looking to push this into my eyes and claw my face to get out. So when his arm comes around and begins to claw, I'm going to push down on that arm and pull it away from my face. Now from here, I'm going to take it underneath my leg, so that I lock the elbow off. Once I've got to this position, I'm going to tie this leg off behind my knee. Now by pulling down this way with my leg, it puts pressure on his elbow. But now I'm going to do the same to his head. I'm going to turn it to the side, put it into the crook of my arm, and crank him up this way. Okay? So this is a combination lock of elbow, shoulder and neck. So from here, in this original position, this guy still wants to fight me, so he's sticking that hand in my face and he's going to claw at my eyes and he's going to try and push me off it. I'm going to lean my weight in and fold this arm to the floor and then quickly tie it off behind my leg. As soon as I've got it behind the leg, it's trapped. If I want to reinforce it, I just tuck it behind here and start pulling down. As soon as I pull my hips down, I'm going to stretch the shoulder and the elbow. Now from here I'm going to turn the head to the side. The reason I'm going to turn the head to the side is he's going to fight me from here straight away. Remember, we're not talking about sporting rules here. If I'm lying in here, he's going to take a bite. If I'm going to turn his head to the side, which no longer gives him that biting option, I'm going to lock up his neck and I'm going to crank his head for the finish. Okay? Let's look at the entry gate. We've come from the side position. I put the arm, I put the head, sit through nice and deeply and get into this tight pin. From here, as soon as he brings his hand up into my face, I'm going to push down and lock it off behind the knee. From here, turn his head to the side. So avoid the bite, lock his head, and stretch his neck for this final crank position. This is just a brief variation on what we've done. Really, it's just to show how you can lock up the top half and bottom half of the body together. So from here, everything's the same. Come down, lock this in, tie it off. Now from this position, I'm turning over and I'm hooking his leg and I'm stretching in this way. Okay? And this becomes a spinal lock, and also the elbow is being locked in place here as well. The idea is to join your hands together, but sometimes you're never going to get there unless this guy is really flexible. And if you do, then maybe someone will go slap. So you want to be careful with it and crank him up to here. Alright? But it's just a little variation on how you can wrap the complete body up in that position. Alright. This final application on the floor here, combination locks. We're back to this cross body position which we looked at earlier on today. And from here, again I'm going to break down the man's hold by driving my forearm into the face. Now once more, if he decides to start clawing at my face, then I'm going to drop my hand down on top of his wrist and jam my elbow into his head. From here, my hand will come underneath, and I'm going to crank the elbow up towards the ceiling. Okay. Look at that again. From here, I'm holding him, but he still wants to fight me. He brings his hands into my face, so I'm going to come up and push down, pinning the arm to the floor, getting my elbow in nice and tight, join my hands up, pull his wrist down the mat, and lift his elbow towards the ceiling. And this applies the pressure. And here, he begins to tap my face, push down, control, grab hold of my own wrist, pull the wrist down the mat, and crank the elbow. Now in this position here, I can also get the neck again. So I'm going to take this hand, put it against the back of his wrist, come up, take the side of his head, and stretch it away. So what we're doing is separating the shoulder from the elbow, and once more putting pressure on the back of his neck. So if we look at this changeover from this position, my hand comes up and grabs the back of his wrist and pulls it down the mat. This hand comes round, takes the side of his head and separates it away so that we're pulling the neck and shoulder away from the elbow. And that gives us a powerful finish. Okay, this is another combination technique. We're going to tap the elbow first and make our way around the back for the finish. We're going to do this against a strike to the head of a stick or something along the same lines. Okay. Same speed, but all on back. Okay, let's slow this down a little bit. This time I'm going to hyperextend the elbow using my neck. Remember, every part of the body can be used as a weapon. In this case, I'm coming up underneath his extended arm. So as Tony throws the strike, I attack it and block it. At the same time, I'm going to get hold of his windpipe. Now I'm going to bend my knees and come over and look up. And this puts extreme pressure on the back of the elbow. And pop it for this arm. And I'm moving around the back, grabbing and setting him back down to the face bar that we applied earlier on. Alright, the next technique we're looking at something like a baseball bat. It's a heavier weapon, it's going to be swung by two hands, different to the one-handed version. Again, sometimes this weapon can be used commonly outside on the street. Its advantages and disadvantages are, if you're on the end of the swing when it comes through, this is where all the power is. It's going to do some damage. If you get inside the swing, this is where there's going to be less power generated and where you're safer to finish the technique. So we're going to look again at one of the chin and neck controls from a swing baseball bat. Come on! Okay, let's slow this down, have a look at what's happening. On the first swing I've moved out, he's caught me by surprise. On the second swing I'm attacking his arm so he doesn't get that strike off. Now the weapon is useless. I go back to my techniques that I've been training and take the head and the neck, right the knee in there and get rid of it. Okay? And make sure you retrieve your weapon at the end. Let's look at that again. So, as I back away from the initial strike, I attack it. So you must move in against this weapon. If you back away, you're going to get battered. You've got to move in. So your mindset must be to attack the arms hard. Once I get into this gap, I reach around and grab the chin and start twisting the body. Then he's vulnerable to a knee shot, and unwind him and take him to the floor. Alright, still sticking with the same movement that we looked at with the baseball bat. Again, we're back to any weapon. In this case, we're just going to use the bottle as a different reference point. Once again, when I move outside the first initial swipe, then I need to be moving in on the second one. Now, sometimes a drill that we use to help people with timing is that we get a guy stood in front of me and just basically swing the bottle back and forward, just keep swinging it, start off slowly, and I look at the angle of the arm and learn how to move in. Okay, it's all about timing. So when you're training to start off with, just do this drill slowly, just allow yourself to stand on the outside of the swing and move in. Then as you get better, you do the swing faster and faster so that your timing gets better, okay? So, once you get that, then we can neutralise this technique that we're going to do now. Okay, this is the over-shoulder elbow break. And when the arm's extended, it's in perfect position for this. So, as he swings, I back away and I move in and attack the joint. I'm going to twist and step through, loading that elbow up onto my shoulder. Now notice I'm turning away from him so that I'm rotating his wrist and breaking the elbow over the shoulder until the weapon drop. I'm in perfect position to drive back with the elbow or the groin shot, and then I come over the top and put pressure already on that elbow and bring it to the floor. From here I'm going to nip on the shoulder joint, and I've got pressure here without the use of my hands, or I can crank it up a little bit if I want to. Okay? Let's look at this again slowly, Tony. I'll move back and I'll attack from this position. Twist and step through, taking that break over the shoulder. Come back, right the elbow, hit the groin, and bring it over, taking it to this position of control. From here, down, hit on the shoulder, and continue the elbow crush and the wrist crush. Okay, coming back to something we done earlier on when we looked at this disarming technique here and taking the knife away from this position. The same movement can apply if the blade's at a lower level. It makes no difference, you're just going to change your hands when you do this. So this time, my hands are going to stay down. So whatever this person's asking for, I'm going to reach for it as we've done before, and we knock it this way from the hand, okay? Get my hand here. So what about the element of surprise? If this person feels they're going to get what they want, then they will relax mentally and physically. And then you can follow in if you need to, or start running. Again, slowly. Your hands need to be relaxed. If you tense up your shoulders, it's not going to work. It needs to be that snapping movement. In that moment, it allows you entry into the techniques that you want to follow up with. Okay? Again, it's speed. Alright, we're in a situation again where we've got this mugging hold up using the knife. This time, the knife is pushed to my stomach, and the man is demanding whatever he wants from here. So, everything you do is going to start from this position here. This time I'm going to apply an elbow lock, and I'm also going to use the wall to help me and to get myself out. So we'll look at the whole scenario first of all. Card number. Come on, get the fucking card. Give me the number. It's in my pocket. Can I get it? Is that all right? All right, let's have a look at this again. From this position, I can feel the pressure of the knife against my abdomen, which means his energy is going this way. So when I reach down, I'm going to clamp his arm and turn it over. We're back into this elbow crush that we practiced earlier on, but now he can't retract his arm. I'm going to drive his knuckles into the wall and grind them until the blade is released. The knee comes through and the finishing shots are there if you need them to finish, okay? Now again, we're taking that right the way through to the extreme level of what we're doing. At any time, the technique can finish. So, if I get here and disarm, I might as well be on my way. There's a clear exit, you go it. But if there's nowhere to run and you need to make sure this guy's not going to come up and follow you again, then we need to take it to this conclusion. So from here, I roll my arm over the top, trap his knife hand and drive the knuckles into the wall. Grind the hand until he releases the blade. The knee will come up and strike the body. Then I can drive the head on through, knee cocks it, stamp down onto the Achilles for your finishing shot, and we get away. Okay, throughout this DVD, we've looked at many different ways of controlling the joints on the body. With continual practice and rerunning and watching the DVD, you're going to pick up more on some of the common points. So initially there seems to be lots of different things to learn, but there's always a common theme running through any joint lock and control. A couple of things we mentioned today, and they tend to keep coming back over and over again. First of all, let's just go back to one of the techniques we practiced earlier on. This is the wrist crush. Now the wrist crush, we've seen it in many various forms, and it's one of the most common controlling techniques that you can apply. It's always readily available if somebody has grabbed you and you can manipulate the wrist. So just having a little look at the workings of it more closely. When you grab the hand, your thumbs are going to be on the back and your fingers are on the inside, so you get a firm grip on the hand. Always use small circles to apply these wrist locks. Never use large circles. This is weak and it allows the man too much momentum to hit you. If you look at this small circle, that's my whole body weight behind the arm. There's no way he's going to fight out of this. So regardless who's using this technique, it will work for you. Now when we turn it over, we have what we call the reverse wrist crush position. Same sort of pressure, only the fingers are facing upwards. The elbows stay in. Once more, my thumbs are on the back and my fingers are on the inside, and you apply this downward pressure along the line of the elbow and the shoulder, which once more will set you up for your finishes. Always keep the elbows in. Never have wide movements. This is just your arm strength. There's not enough to control somebody who's really strong, who really wants to have a fight with it. If there's adrenaline flowing through the body, this man's going to fight hard. So I've got to keep my elbows in to get some degree of control. So it's all about small circles and keeping elbows tight when you apply these techniques. Now something else that we use quite a few times, I'll just put it on your back son. Figure 4. We spoke about this, we used it on the legs, we've used it on the wrist. We knelt on the head and we applied this figure 4 wrist lock from here. So the figure 4 means that you're putting your other arm through to reinforce your grip. So rather than just relying on the grip of your hands alone, if you're getting somebody who's strong, you're going to need this bar through to form a figure 4 shape using my arms and his arms. And this locks it on and makes it a really tight hold to control. But we've looked at the figure 4, to bring up again, Tony, in other ways as well. Remember this technique, outer figure 4 arm lock, same controlling points. The arm comes through into a figure 4 shape and reinforces the lever that you need across the elbow. The same with the inner figure 4. Again, my arms are joined to this figure 4 position and put pressure on the elbow upwards. So when we speak about figure 4, and we're talking about reinforcing the hold with your other arm so you get complete control. We're on the floor on your back, the same sort of principles apply. Whether you're going to hold the leg in a figure 4, it's the same thing. All it does is reinforce what you're doing. We turn you over. This was also figure 4 in the legs. So this common theme keeps coming back, where you're reinforcing one leg with the other to apply pressure down. If you look back on the DVD, you'll see the use of this figure 4 term quite a few times. And it's one of the basic things that you need to know if you're going to apply these holds properly. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching the Secret Joint Breaking Techniques by myself, Kevin O'Hagan. Just to sum up, remember that all these techniques must be applied with a degree of control. Remember that triple S principle. Submission, subdual, survival. Survival is the last line of defence that you're going to use when you've got no other choice. And we've taken these techniques to the extreme. Most of the time, if you manage to master these holds, you'll be able to subdue somebody without maybe taking it that step further. But most importantly, in training, always learn the technique slowly first. There's no need to crank these on hard. We've done this today to show you where you can take the techniques, but myself and Tony have trained in these a long time, so we know exactly what force to apply. But to enjoy what you're doing and to get something out of it, then always work steadily with your partner and make sure you both know the amount of force that you're applying. Hope you enjoyed the video and it's informative, and we'll see you again sometime. Thank you.